Today our presentation is by Nick Polito, and his thesis statement that he'll be defending is increased pressure to succeed academically leads to an increase in anxiety in students today. Please help join me in welcoming Nick.
Look around you. Society is anxious. Or is it? Nowadays, everyone seems to be self-diagnosing themselves with mental health disorders like anxiety, even if they don't know the actual term. But if we look at the true medical definition of anxiety, which is defined as an emotion characterized by feelings of tension, worried thoughts, and physical changes like increased blood pressure, one can simply look around for a few minutes and see that there is an increase in medical anxiety, which can be seen in different kinds of pressures, showing that an increased pressure to succeed academically leads to an increase in anxiety in students today through the pressures put by social media, academics, parents, and teachers. Social media is a pressure that students face, one, because so many people are connected to technology. A study in Turkey shows that 96.8% of households have some kind of smartphone or technology, showing just how many people are connected. And not only is this kind of connectedness, which allows all of these different people's thoughts and emotions to be on the internet at the same time, which can be a good thing, with everyone being able to voice their own thoughts and opinions, but it also leads to a perfectionist culture where social media just puts this mold of a person and not wanting to form an actual unique human person, which is how that causes more anxiety and stress in a person whereas the news record says, rather than alleviate anxiety, studies indicate that exposure to others' perfect self-representation within social media can intensify one's own body image concerns and sense of social alienation, showing that this perfectionist culture that is followed by social media is one of the pressures that students face with anxiety today. Another pressure is academics, that specifically being the pressures that the government puts on academics, which is the rules and regulations that they have in place for the school, such as having a certain amount of students that they have to teach, or having standardized testing that they have to do for the students. While this can be a good thing, and it has set more students to be taught, it also leads to this kind of machinist force, where you're, again, not making a unique human person, you're just making a mold of a person, which is a very unhealthy thing to do, which also leads to the expectation that parents and teachers have had on students. For teachers, it's that they just have so many kids that they have to teach, and they have to teach them in a very rigorous way. And it's very structured, and they're not teaching to each individual person and not looking at that person's own needs and desires. Where, say, in classical schooling, they would look at a student's personal needs and desires. Schools nowadays just kind of go through schooling itself and are just very machinist, very, very bad for students' mental health. With parents, it's similar. It's the aspirations that they have on a student, which is similar to the expectation. But aspirations are a nebulous goal that you have set for your child, whereas expectations are the tangible goal. And one might be asking, those sound like the same thing. The difference is that, say for an expectation, you want your kid to try sports, so you say, hey kid, let's try sports. whereas an aspiration is like, hey kid, I'm going to make you do a sport no matter what, which, as you can see, is very stressful. Another stress caused by parents is that they try to live vicariously through their children, making them an extension of themselves without making that child just their own unique person with their own thoughts and opinions, which, as we see over all these different pressures, is unhealthy and not needed. Another issue that parents pose is that they try to put their own dreams onto kids, where they had something they wanted to do in high school and they didn't do it. Now they're like, oh, I have a child, I'm going to make this child do it. Again, we can see that all of these different pressures just sets more and more pressure, more and more anxiety on students today. Now, you see all of these pressures and you're like, great, these pressures exist. What do we do with it? How do we decrease anxiety? One thing we can see that has to be done is to start focusing on the uniqueness of the human person and not just dealing with this kind of mold or machinist kind of thing that we can see social media, academics, parents, and teachers are all doing, which just puts more and more stress. Another thing with social media specifically, to decrease on the perfectionist culture, and also for the younger generations not to be connected to social media, because those are pressures that they don't need at that time. So it's much better if they go at older years. And for academics, it's, I would say, better, less government involvement with schools so they themselves can be a more unique and nebulous thing, so they can teach the students more uniquely. And we can see with all of these in place, we can have a decrease in the levels of anxiety in students today. Thank you.